Hello and welcome to another Fun Factory gaming episode. First of all, I want to start this video by wishing you all a wonderful and magical new year. In this video I will be giving you my honest opinion about Battlefield 2042, a game that for sure I consider beyond salvation. I play a lot of shooters, many of them aren't good. I am always open to being intrigued, whether through gameplay mechanics, narrative devices, engaging systems or even a stylish look and feel, I will be surprised. Battlefield is my go-to multiplayer shooter, the game I fall back on whenever I'm after a specific shooter fix. It's my comfort food in that sense, something I just can't get from any other series. I have been waiting for the next Battlefield since it became clear DICE doesn't have a solid idea of what it wants to do with Battlefield 5. Putting my feelings on Battlefield 2042 into words has been a challenge, not due to any confusion about what I want from a Battlefield, but because it's hard to judge the game on its own merits when it's often not clear how they're supposed to even work. Battlefield 2042 is in a rough technical state. I can't honestly point to a single system, mechanic or mode that is entirely devoid of bugs or some sort of weird mishap. What's frustrating is that some of these problems, which the community has taken to calling legacy bugs, have been there in most of the recent games. Revive bugs, entry-exit animation problems, clipping through the ground, rubber banding under certain conditions, UI elements overlapping and so much more are all issues many series veterans should be familiar with. Yet they continue to show up. I never understood why DICE throws away years of work, experimentation and refinement when it starts working on every new Battlefield, rather than build on and perfect. But even if you're willing to forgive the smaller bugs and technical hiccups, they're usually intertwined enough with Battlefield 2042's core design that the moment-to-moment suffers. From the very beginning, DICE set out to create the biggest Battlefield ever. But to the studio, that meant expanding the player counts, and designing larger play spaces to support that. This was its first stumble. Battlefield never had a problem with scale. It already offered one of largest player counts and biggest maps in the shooter space. It's frankly a problem that didn't need to be solved, and while I appreciate that innovation isn't always born from challenge, the push for 128 players and what it brought simply needed to have a bigger impact for it to matter, or even make sense. It's the same principle of movies. You may fill a movie from start to finish with special effects, it doesn't assure you it will be a good movie. In all my time with the game, Conquest matches felt neither bigger nor smaller than standard 64-player. There are occasional moments where both teams seem to converge on one capture point, seemingly to try and test the limits of this newfound scale, but that's about it. Those moments can be fun, but that feeling is fleeting. For one, there is no class or squad structure for any of these skirmishes to feel organized enough to be meaningful. It only really helps generate momentary dopamine from multi-kills, and feed into that side of content creation on Twitch and YouTube. Setting aside the missing class dynamics, the larger number often tips the scales in favor of chaos rather than action. This is especially true for Breakthrough, where DICE looks to have just thrown in the towel. The way the maps are designed simply doesn't make it fun for two teams of 64 players to bang their heads against each other for 40 minutes. It's often an inexorable battle of wills that decides who claims a sector. Going back to Conquest, the emphasis on map size appears to have hit a technical snag during in development, because almost all maps have large dead spaces between capture points, themselves about half-quarter the size of a classic Battlefield map. It's not a stretch to say that it sometimes feels like DICE stitched together traditional-size Battlefield maps with large expanses of snow, sand or grass. It's not uncommon to look through your scope and see infantry or vehicles running at quarter the animation frame rate, or spot 3D models flipped to their basic low-poly versions when things are far away enough. Battlefield 2042 tries to get around this somewhat by offering free vehicle call-ins, to lessen the effect of all that dead space, but the system is like so many others often buggy and confusing. Even still, it's a band-aid that doesn't address the root of the problem. Maps simply don't have good flow. They feel like distinct battles that happen to take place in the same general area. There's barely any strategic value to any of the game's hotspots, beyond the obvious benefit holding the skyscraper offers camping snipers. When DICE talked about bringing sectors into Conquest, and connecting two or more points, I hoped this dynamic would allow advances and retreats to inform one another, and give meaning to battles. Portal has ended up being the supposed Battlefield 2042's saving grace by default because of the rest of the game's misfires. At launch, Portal included 2 map remakes from Bad Company 2, Battlefield 3, and Battlefield 1942 alongside a large assortment of weapons and gadgets from those games. Developed by Ripple Effect, formerly DICE LA, Portal is teeming with love and respect for those classic games. This is seen in how they're visually presented, and in how much the team attempted to recreate within the mechanics of 2042. It's not perfect. Classes, for example, have the same one gadget limitation found in the main game. All-out warfare was why most people were buying Battlefield 2042, and it's frankly what the main event is supposed to be. With that in mind, I can't in good conscience recommend Battlefield 2042, not when we have genuinely fun shooters in Halo Infinite and Call of Duty Vanguard, both in much better shape, and one is even free. I've always said that nothing can replicate Battlefield. I still believe this to be the case, but it's clear to me that not even Battlefield 2042 is interested in replicating Battlefield. Horrible map design, mediocre graphics for a 2021 game, horrible HUD design, bad gameplay mechanics and so on. Battlefield 2042 ended up to be a huge deception, even bigger than Battlefield 5 that was presented to us in that hugely rushed and unfinished state. To be honest, I truly think that this game is beyond salvation. I highly doubt that any update or patch is able to save this game. I think that the best thing is for EA and DICE take this as an example, and for the next Battlefield release at least try to respect the players' community, and commit to make a quality product like I think they achieved with 2016's Battlefield 1. Having all this in consideration, I will give this game a 4 out of 10 points. Thank you for your support, and please don't forget to subscribe to be warned about future Fun Factory gaming videos.